associate classroom today analyzing two documents. Famous documents. I think what happens is that what led me to do this is that I've covered this so many times. There's so much going on. It made me think back to this quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I think we'll do the brief overview of the two documents, and then we can get into the similarities and differences.
Sounds good.
So, right here we have the Boston Massacre one.
Yep. March of 1770. Paul Revere engraving. Revere, a son of liberty, a patriot, considered to be America's first piece of political propaganda, stirring up feelings of resentment towards the British. You've got Captain Preston standing behind his men, appearing to order them to fire into a group of peaceful colonists who were just out walking their dog.
Walking the dog. Just being nice that night.
Yeah.
And we know that there's a lot that was exaggerated
Yep.
here, quite a bit.
There's truth. The British soldiers did shoot and kill some colonists.
Sure.
But the colonists were rioting, were throwing ice and clubs and hurling insults at the British soldiers, and the British soldiers fired in self-defense.
And then we move on to a copy of the New York Journal.
Yeah.
Destruction of the warship Maine. This is what, with all of the tension that was existing between the United States and Spain at the time, people in Cuba were revolting. They wanted to break away from Spain. Of course, the United States would be sympathetic to their cause because we once had to fight for our independence. We also had General Weyler, who was putting these Cuban freedom fighters, I guess you could say, or insurgents into reconcentration camps, very similar to the concentration camps of the Holocaust. And then what winds up happening is we send our ship, the USS Maine, down there, and then it blows up. Now, it did blow up. It took us it wasn't until 1995, I think, where forensics and the technology catch up, where we're able to actually confirm, no, this wasn't sunk by a Spanish mine, as the New York World tries to sketch out.
Yep.
This was actually an internal explosion.
Mm-hmm.
So, reason why I bring this up to you, and I throw it over to you because I like the way you think, is that the reactions that two of these things got. That's the big similarity I'm looking at here, is that the reactions these two wound up getting, where there was lots left out.
Mm-hmm. The mistruths or false narratives that are being portrayed, that the British intentionally opened fire on the colonists, killing several of them, that the day after, by the way.
Right.
The day after, we knew exactly what happened, a hidden mine or a sunken torpedo, and they actually diagrammed how this took place, blowing up the Maine. William Randolph Hearst, you furnished me the pictures, and I'll furnish you the war.
Yep.
Yellow journalism comes to mind, propaganda, yellow journalism.
Again, definitely trying to play on people's emotions.
Yeah.
Really trying to. Naval officers think the Maine was destroyed. Theodore Roosevelt, of course, thinks this was not an accident.
Yeah, Roosevelt was famous for saying America is in need of a war.
Right.
I feel the country is in need of a war. I forget the exact quote.
Right.
But yeah, again, both of these, they're using the emotion of the audience to stir up feelings of resentment. In Paul Revere's case, getting those many colonists who were on the fence. Yeah, we don't like taxes, but we're not quite, willing to want our freedom.
They see this in the paper.
Boom.
Yeah,
they
it's on.
They join the patriotic cause. And over here, you now have a common enemy. And what do you do to that enemy? You declare war on them. This will be the event that pushes America into the Spanish-American War.
And here you have it too. This one is not going to get the United States to the to the American Revolution right away. But the thing that they have in common is that you see quite often say, "Hey, Americans died, so now we need to go and kill people."
Yeah.
And if that might include creating a narrative to justify why doing it,
yeah,
then fine, so be it.
Yeah, like maybe the Boston Massacre wasn't the immediate cause of the revolution. It is 5 years before Lexington and Concord.
Sure.
It certainly stirs up those feelings of anger, resentment, even hatred of the British, especially in the Northeast. You're opening up your newspaper in Connecticut, in Hartford, Connecticut, and this is what you see. You want some sort of retribution.
Absolutely.
Same is true over here. And can't forget those attention-grabbing details used by yellow journalism. The $50,000 reward, the illustration, the big bold print, grabbing your attention because Pulitzer and Hearst just wanted to sell newspapers. But definitely that idea of false narratives.
So since you're talking about differences then, and you're talking about here, this is a cause of the American Revolution. We don't go to war the next day. There's quite a few other things that get us into the American Revolution, but this is definitely going to fuel that. Where you can almost say with this one, this is your immediate cause.
This is the immediate cause
of the Spanish-American War.
And definitely similarity. Again, jumping to that false conclusions. And why, as historians, we need to do our research. Before we put things out there as historical certainties. Make sure you know what's really happening. Because this stirs in my emotion. It was at the trial of the Boston Massacre where John Adams defends Captain Preston, where Captain Preston has muzzle fire on his jacket. So clearly he couldn't have been standing behind his men unless his men were complete idiots and shooting over their shoulders.
And here's just another similarity too. When you have, I guess, a military force or people with weapons in the vicinity of an already, I guess you could say, tense or toxic situation, these are the kind of things that'll happen. Like they were just there just in case.
Yeah.
It blows up and people jump to their own conclusions.
Absolutely. The British are in Boston to keep the peace.
Right.
The colonists are upset about being taxed without representation in Parliament. And the Townshend and Stamp Acts at the time. We're just there to keep the peace.
Yeah.
We're as a show of force of, hey, Spain, you're mistreating your colonists in Cuba. We're here too. No, definitely similarity.
I'm not seeing any difference. I'm not seeing a lot of differences here, except for like time period. When you're looking at, I guess, the changing of the military, where we're becoming more naval. We're looking at differences.
Certainly. I mean, this is the quintessential definition of propaganda.
Absolutely.
Where this is more yellow journalism. Yeah. Could yellow journalism be propaganda? Sure. It certainly can be considered propaganda because there is a false narrative.
Yeah.
You are trying to persuade people to think a certain way.
Sure.
Certainly, the early 20th century, we're not looking at journalists as trying to have
an agenda,
propagandist agendas like we might see in 21st century medias. No, this is a great documents.
I couldn't help but think. It's like, hey, this reminds me of this.
Yeah.
Just the little things that go through your head. Anything else we should have with this one?
Poor little doggy.
The dog. That's the only thing we're missing over here. It would have been perfect if we had the innocent octopus that was, that you always feel bad for.
Or Captain, what was his name? The captain of the Maine.
Oh, God.
I can't remember now.
A lot of sweethearts were heartbroken. Yes.
Captain Higsby?
A lot of people were heartbroken because this does happen right around Valentine's Day as well.
Yeah, it was.
All right, cool. Well, thank you for watching.